advisory board of Samanvay Space. Samanvay is a platform to promote, to appreciate, and to encourage art. We encourage and showcase global artists as well as local artists. We arrange a lot of cultural and literary events where we allow the artists to interact with the audience, with the collaborators, with the patrons, with stakeholders and thought leaders. So that's what Samanvay is about. As we say, it is confluence of art and soul. So today we have a very special program. The title of this program is, we are going to talk about the mysteries and resurrection stories of rare art forms. And for that, today we have invited Rupa Murray Desai, who is a filmmaker. And I'm going to first introduce her before we begin the program. Rupa has been a media person. She has directed over 100 commercials. She has worked on several TV promos and digital films. And currently, in fact, she just finished a project where she wrote short stories for school children to explain educational concepts in a fun way. And guess what? Stories are currently being converted into virtual apps, and we are soon going to get into augmented reality using the stories that Rupa has created. And as I was thinking about Rupa, I realized she is the best person to, in fact, present today's topic. And I'll tell you why. We are going to be presenting 3 art forms which have 3 qualities. They are all rare, they all have mystery stories, and they have resurrection and hope stories associated with them. And I have to say, Rupa herself possesses all these 3 characteristics. The first thing is rare. Rupa is a rare person, as in she is an avid trekker, cyclist, and a marathon runner. In last decade, she has run several marathons. And guess what? She has, in fact, summited the highest trekkable summit, which is called Stoke Kangri in Leh, beautiful place. And that's where she has been. So that's a rare quality she possesses, apart from being a filmmaker. Then comes the resurrection part. So Rupa is a cancer survivor, and she has bravely and in a very inspiring way not only has battled cancer, but she also is a motivational speaker who tells the stories of bravery and gives inspiration to people. Third part, the mystery. For that, you have to wait till the end of this event where I'll tell you some mysterious story about who Rupa is. But first, let's get to the event. Welcome, Rupa. Rupa. So today we are going to present 3 art forms. All of them, as I said, have the 3 qualities of rare, mysterious, and resurrection stories associated with them. And you are a filmmaker, and I know that you have been involved in making films about these art forms. So can you tell us a little bit before we begin to show them the art form? Can you tell us, how did you get involved in it? What inspired to go to all these rare places and make these films?
Yes, sure. But before that, I would like to thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited, and I hope that we have a great evening, all of us. So coming to the question about how did this project come about? I'm no art connoisseur. Firstly, I would like to give a disclaimer. But it so happened that Live History India, the co-founder and editor of Live History India, is known to me. She's a friend of mine, and she wanted to get these films made for the government of Gujarat. So she asked me whether I could do it. And well, how many people get such an opportunity to travel to remote areas and watch art while it is being created? watch the artisan, when he is at work, to interact with the artisan. And I thought it was a great opportunity, and obviously I jumped at it. I mean, who wouldn't? So that's how it happened.
Yeah,
and just to tell you, Live History India does a lot of amazing work. This is just up their street, because they livehistoryindia.com is their website, and they do a lot of they have a lot of untold stories, never seen before stories. That's all covered there, and it's amazing to know how many incredible stories are tucked away in remote parts of India. So this is an example. These films are an example of that.
Yeah, you are so right. We say that in India, oh, it's full of art. But really, I mean, it's amazing when you start paying attention to it. There's so much talent and so many different various forms of art. And I'm so happy and so excited that we are bringing 3 such art forms that resurrected. And that's the other thing we need to do, appreciate and help them to revive and resurrect. So the first art form, let's go to that, Rupa. Which is the first art form you want to show us?
So the first is Rogan.
Rogan, okay.
So I can share images so that before we get started, everybody gets kind of familiar with how it looks.
Yeah, so the Rogan, the name Rogan, look, it's all after 7 and I'm postponing dinner because of this event. So I'm hungry and I'm wondering, is it anything to do with Rogan Josh?
Well, possibly. So,
okay.
The word Rogan means oil. Okay. And actually oil is right at the center of this art as well.
Okay.
So that's where the art gets its name. But Rogan could also, Rogan Josh could be juice, and Rogan could be, butter or oil. So it could be stew in butter or oil. But we don't know that for certain, because there is another possibility that Rogan means red or brown in Urdu, and it could come, Josh could be from gosht, which is mutton. So it could come from there as well. We're not certain where exactly it comes from.
Okay. But Josh, the Josh word also means some energy. So let's get to this rare art form and experience the energy. So can you show us a few pieces, some art pieces from this particular form?
So I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
And tell me when you can see the first.
Yes, we can. We can see it. Okay.
I'm going to show you a few of them.
Okay. And you may also have to tell us, like, it looks beautiful, especially this one. The color combination suits my preference.
Yeah, so this is what is most famously known as the Tree of Life.
Tree of Life, okay.
Yes, and if you observe, there is a peacock right in the center. Okay. So this is one of their most famous pieces.
Oh, okay.
And
Tree of Life, okay.
And this is a paisley.
Okay.
With the artist at work. And, well, this one too, where he's at work. So these are some still images.
You have, okay.
And
what's about it? What makes it unique and special? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Before that, you just mentioned something about a process, Rupa.
Yeah.
You want to tell us something about how it is done? Because otherwise, if you just look at it, then you see trees, you see leaves, and it's fine. But there has to be something about the process. You did mention when you were,
So, whenever we see any kind of painting work, what is it that artists do? They dip their brushes in paint and then they paint over cloth. Now, this is also paint, but what makes it different from any other art form is that they use something known as a stylus, which is not really a brush, but it's brush-like. And this stylus never touches the cloth that it works on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's known as a process of air weaving. And to know more, let's see a video. I think that would be kind of self-explanatory.
Okay.
हम रोगन जो बनाते हैं वो कैस्टर ऑयल से, दिवेल से बनाते हैं। उसको जंगल में लंबा चौड़ा प्रोसेस किया जाता है, उसको गर्म करना, ठंडा करना। तो वैसा 6 घंटे तक हम प्रोसेस करते हैं और शाम को उसको रख देते हैं शाम में ठंडा होने के लिए। अगर दूसरे दिन जम के रबड़ के जैसा हो गया तो रोगन तैयार हो गया समझेंगे। अगर उसमें कच्चा रह गया तो फिर रिपीट किया जाता है 2 दिन। तो कम से कम 2 दिन उसका प्रोसेस चलता है और तीसरे दिन उसका रोगन तैयार हो जाता है। रोगन बनने के बाद उसके हम खास किस्म के रंग है पिगमेंट्स। तो पिगमेंट रंग हम अहमदाबाद से खरीदते हैं और उसके 4 या 5 रंग मिलते हैं हमें। जो पिगमेंट है उसको ग्राइंड करना और पत्थर के साथ उसको कूटते कूटते रोगन में मिक्स कर देना। इस तरीके से रोगन का रंग तैयार होता है। और वो रंग तैयार होने के बाद हम छोटे छोटे डिब्बी में पानी में डुबो के रखते हैं। अगर पानी में नहीं रखा तो वो कड़ी हो जाती है उसके ऊपर, मतलब स्टोन के जैसा हो जाता है, या फिर डस्ट वगैरह उसमें जमता है तो उसका जो हम तार बनाते हैं वो सही निकलता नहीं है। और इसकी कला की जो खासियत है वो ये है कि कपड़े के ऊपर कोई भी डिजाइन या मार्किंग के बिना बनाया जाता है।
The unique feature of this craft is that the motif is created by air weaving. The artist pre-manipulates the thread-like paint to weave its magic in the air to create the intended design before contact with the cloth. The color or stylus never touches the fabric it paints on. There is also a trick that the Food family practices to reduce the actual work in complicated symmetrical designs. When one side of the design is ready, the cloth is folded on it and pressed to get the imprint on the folded fabric. Lo and behold, the mirror image is ready. However, the art created without any hard drawing or design is a time-consuming process.
Wow, that's amazing that the brush, the stylus, it never really touches the cloth.
Yeah.
You know, that actually makes me wonder about one thing. I can understand the rogan, the oil must be so important because the consistency and how much it, makes it into a thread, all that will depend how the design looks like.
Yeah.
So it's not something you can just start doing. It must involve a lot of lot of practice and a lot of skill building.
Yes, yes. And so, they work on the rogan, they put it on their palm, and then they keep on moving it to get the required consistency, the thickness, etc. And it's really amazing. Even when I was watching it, it was very amazing. They do it with such practiced ease, and just take the stylus, and then it all comes out of their own heads. There is no, design or tracing paper or any of that. And they just think about their design, and then they take their stylus, and that's it. They get started.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating.
You know what, Rupa, I find that to be true of a lot of Indian artists, traditional artists I'm talking about. When you see the design, you may feel like, okay, there was a lot of like tracing, drawing involved, but no, a lot of them, they just simply take the brush and they do their work, brush or whatever it is that, they use to create that art form. It's in their blood, it's in their, it's part of them. They don't need to, do that. The only preparation here is the generations of, I don't know how many, that actually I want to ask you, the skill building has happened over many, many, many years. How old is this particular art form?
This is about 300 years old. And from what we know, it came in from Persia via Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the Afridi tribe brought this art form. And then they settled in Nirona in Gujarat.
Okay.
So, coming to the part about why it's rare. So this family, the Ghaffur Khatri family, is the only family in the whole world which is practicing this art.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the whole world. So although it started, you said it came from Persia through Afghanistan, Pakistan, but they don't have it in Persia, they don't have it in Afghanistan, they don't have it in Pakistan. This specific way it is practiced, it's only in this one village in Gujarat. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And this one family, and that's it.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
And in fact, the Abdul Ghaffur, my son, is the 8th generation.
Eighth generation. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Who is involved in this art. So yeah, it's very rare because you won't find anybody else practicing.
Yeah. And the specific features that what makes it unique is the air weaving, the way the rogan is done, and then there is no design, and it just comes out of their head onto the cloth. And what is it used for? Like, is it only for wall hangings, or what do they do with this kind of art?
No, so we'll come to that later.
Okay.
But earlier it wasn't well known. Not that it is well known now as well, but there was a time where it nearly died.
Okay, so that's the other thing I wanted to ask you. Like, what's the story behind the history of this art? First of all, you said that it's the 8th generation that's practicing it. I was going to ask you, has it always been that way, that they just make their art, sell it, and that's it? We are talking about resurrection. So tell us about the dying part first.
Yeah, so it had a near-death experience.
Okay.
So Abdul Bhai, at one point in the 1980s, there was no demand. There were a lot of droughts in Gujarat, and livelihood was a big question mark. And he gave it all up and moved to Mumbai. But let's hear it from his mouth.
Okay.
हम रोगन जो बनाते हैं वो
While Ghaffur is now completely involved in the Rogan art, there was a time when he had given it all up. Disillusioned with the dismal future of the art and the hand-to-mouth existence due to the constant droughts in Gujarat, Ghaffur left the family business about 34 years ago and departed for Mumbai to seek other work. It was his grandfather who convinced him to return and take over the reins of the vanishing art and bring it back to life. Ghaffur shares his experience with us.
यहाँ पर अकाल पड़ता था 2-3 साल, तो अकाल के टाइम गुजरात सरकार ने हमें ऑफर की, गुर्जरी के लिए काम कर सकते हैं ताकि गवर्नमेंट एम्पोरियम से आपको थोड़ा काम मिले, तो थोड़ा फाइन करके हमारे हिसाब से करके दीजिए। तो ये ऑफर हुआ, तो मेरे दादाजी ने मुझे खत लिखा, कुछ भी करके आ जाओ, ये है वो। आखिर मुझे मजबूर होना पड़ा। उनका ये वर्ड्स थे कि बेटा तू नहीं आएगा तो ये पीढ़ियां खत्म हो रही, बस ताला लग जाएगा।
Wow.
After his return, there was no looking back for Abdul Ghaffur. He immersed himself in his craft, innovating constantly and taking the Rogan art to the next level.
एक साड़ी बनाना रोगन आर्ट में तो किसी की सोच से बाहर था, तो हमने रोगन आर्ट में एक साड़ी बनाया था। नेशनल अवार्ड के लिए हमने 12 साल संघर्ष किए। पहले जमाने में काम होता है वो बहुत मोटा मोटा काम होता था, उसमें एक मशीन नहीं थी। आज हमारा आर्ट फॉर्म में ऐसा काम है कि लोग मशीन का मानते हैं।
Amazing.
Yes, so there was, if he had not come back when he did, this art been lost to the world.
Yeah.
So to speak, he came back, and when he came back, he infused the art with his passion and creativity and innovations and all of that. And that's when you see the resurrection really happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Amit, can you mute everybody else, please? Hello. Can you, those who are not speaking, please mute yourself. That's amazing. Okay. So getting back to this story, I know that actually gave me shivers when you said that if he had not come back from Mumbai at his Dadaji's request, this art would have been lost. right? And it's so unique in some sense that we want to keep it going. So, but you know, stories of resurrection typically have something that has to happen, like some innovation or something. And he does talk about innovation. Can you spend a little bit of time telling us what exactly did he do? What innovation did he do? It is in traditional art. It has always been that way. But what were the changes?
So, firstly, earlier the designs were thicker, fabric was coarser, everything was more rudimentary, colors were very basic. So, when he started working, when he immersed himself in this art, he started using finer fabric, softer cotton, silks. Like he says that doing a silk sari in Rogan was something was unthinkable earlier. So designs became more contemporary, and the Tree of Life was created. And it is inspired by Mughal art, so there are no human forms anywhere, but there are a lot of floral motifs as well as animal forms. So the designs became more intricate, the color combinations, and everything became more delicate, fabric, softer. These were the things. Also, they did a whole lot of a range of products, so that it was more usable and accessible to people like us. So there are kurtas, saris, purses, mobile pouches, this whole range of stuff. Apart from wall hangings, which are their primary creators.
So they actually responded to the maybe demands of the market, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. So the more contemporary designs, and also one thing I like about what you said is they added finesse to it, because a lot of time traditional art, because of the way it is done, the finesse part may be missing. By the way, I want to tell all the audience that if you have any questions, you can either type it in chat or you can raise your hand, and I will be addressing everybody's questions in a little bit more time. So
there was something else, and when he came back, where the story of resurrection happens, there was also a lot of help from the government, because the government holds exhibitions for artisans, so like Garvi Gurjari, etc. So it provides artists a platform to not only exhibit their creations but also sell them. So that also helps. And awards, that's another I would like to mention. He has a wall in his house which is dedicated to all the awards he has won. So there are numerous state-level awards. But he and his brother Sumar Bhai have also received the national award. And last year, Abdul Bhai also got the Padma Shri. So, so I think these things also probably help. And there's one other thing that happened in the last, I think, maybe year. Their products are now also available on Amazon.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that. I was going to ask you that if people, after watching this, if they wanted to actually acquire some of these products, where do they do it? And you're saying they're also available on Amazon and online.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is any connection, or what connection do you think there is between Barack Obama and Abdul Ghaffur Khatri, the artist?
Well, Barack Obama's middle name is Hussein, and Abdul Ghaffur also comes from I don't know. Tell me.
Okay. So, in the effort to encourage these artists, Prime Minister Modi in 2014, when he visited the White House, President Barack Obama, he gifted him a Tree of Life. And so, there is every possibility that this wall hanging from this remote village in Gujarat adorns the walls of the White House. So
I hope so. I hope it has still continued adorning the walls of the White House, even with the change of presidency, and especially Tree of Life that is so needed in the US at this point, as you know. But maybe Obama took it to his own house after he left.
I will just show you a picture.
Okay. Oh, wow. Traditional Rogan art.
Yeah, with the tree of life in the center. And that's the one that was gifted.
Yeah. He must be so proud. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing story of near death. Literally, it would have been all like, tala laga ke chale jao, right?
Yeah. So it is an amazing story, and it's a matter of grace, right? And he was telling me the same, that to think that Prime Minister Modi knows me, and that he chose my art gift to the President of the US is a matter of pride for me.
I know. Really, that is such an amazing story. I mean, I can imagine him being so proud that the Prime Minister chose his art to take with him.
Right.
That actually makes it so special. And the tree of life, I guess it comes in various colors and various materials. For those who want to actually maybe have a tree of life in their life, this would be the best way to get it. And also there are a lot of other objects you can get by that are made by using this kind of technique. Rupa, you were there. It's a small village in Gujarat, right? So I'm kind of curious to know about the filming process. Like when you went there, they probably don't have like a hotel or a restaurant. I mean, what did you guys do in a small place like that, where there's this one family and that's the only one that's working on this particular art form?
So we lived not in the village. There is no hotel or accommodation anywhere in the village. So we stayed in Bhuj, which is about an hour's drive from the village. So that's where we stayed, and we used to drive down for the shoot. And it was a great experience. And there was something else that I would like to bring up here. So there was an allegation made on them that they don't involve women in their art at all. And women, in the fabrication. He held workshops and he trained women. And let's hear about it. And we'll hear one of his star female pupils speak as well about her experience with the art. So I'm going to show a little clip.
तो हमारे रोगन आर्ट के इतिहास में खास चीज जिसको कहेंगे टर्निंग पॉइंट था, एक बड़ा चैलेंज था कि आप लड़कियों को सिखाते ही नहीं है, क्योंकि लड़की दूसरे घर जाएगी या कला चली जाएगी, तो ऐसा सोच थी लोगों की। तो मैंने तय किया था कि सिर्फ लड़कियों को मैं सिखाऊंगा, और शुरू में लड़कियों को ट्रेन किया। यहाँ पर काफी कुछ क्लासेस चलाए, 3-3 महीने क्लास होता था, कुछ सिटी में भी चलाए। 300 से ज्यादा लड़कियां हमने ट्रेन की है इस कला में।
Jina Joshi, a young girl in her 20s from the village of Nirona, is one of Gafur's star students. She tells us about her association with this art.
मेरी जन यहाँ पे मेरी बहन थ्रू हुई, तो यहाँ गफूर भाई के यहाँ काम करने सीखने आती थी, और उसने बताया कि यहाँ पे आओ और ये सीखो जो अच्छा है। तो मैंने कहा ठीक है, मैं आ गई यहाँ पे। तो यहाँ आके मैंने देखा क्या कर रहे हैं, कुछ समझ भी नहीं आता था कैसे हो रहा है ये सब। फिर उन्होंने धीरे धीरे ट्रेनिंग शुरू की, जैसे जैसे शुरू किया वैसे वैसे थोड़ा थोड़ा एक्सपीरियंस होता गया। फिर उन्होंने ये भी सिखाया हमें कि कैसे करना, हाथ पकड़ पकड़ के सब कुछ सिखाया। मेरे साथ कुछ 15 तक लड़कियां सीख रही थी यहाँ पे। 8 साल से यहाँ कंटिन्यू आ रही हूँ, सीख रही हूँ, कर रही हूँ। लड़कियों को भी मैंने सिखाया है। कुछ लड़कियां मेरे पास थी, आज मेरे अंदर काम कर रही है ऊपर।
Rupa, that's very interesting that now the other innovation they have is he actually wants to teach women this particular art form. Before they didn't, because women would just get married, the girls would get married and leave the family, and it was like a closely guarded secret. So you have talked about the rare part. You have also told us about the story of resurrection. I'm wondering, what's the mystery part in this?
So what I was going to say is, fair enough that women are being trained, but the mystery still remains. The preparation of the Rogan is, like I had said earlier, that is the crux of this art. And that part is something that has not been shared with anybody. Even when we were filming it, they were very cagey initially to even tell us about it, even describe the process in words. So whatever we shot were bits of, how when we watch a cookery show, they show parts of the food that are ready already, the process is done. So that's how we filmed it. And when they actually do it, the preparation of the Rogan happens in the forests, away from prying eyes, inquisitive people. So that is a secret, and that mystery is still unknown to the rest of the world. Oh. And only their family, and they're holding their cards close to their chest, and obviously, wow. So I would share it. Yeah, so
that's an interesting fact. But do they? Okay, when he trains women now to do the art, but does he train them to actually make the Rogan?
No.
No. So that part is still like closely guarded secret and only done in the most traditional way.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. The other things are innovating, but not that specific part.
And you can't really blame them, right? Because if they start letting this out, then they won't be the only family in the world.
Yeah, maybe I have slightly different view of that, but I mean, yes, it is a family pride for them, and but the good thing is they are able to sell it and survive. But do they sell it like, yeah, now it is available on Amazon, but is that there? I mean, how do they make a living? It got resurrected, yes, but they have to be able to sell it, right? They innovated, they created products, but where do they sell the product other than the new Amazon model that you're talking about?
So, like I said, exhibitions is another really big place. So, they travel across the country selling their products in exhibitions. But there's something interesting. When we were filming, there was a hullabaloo outside suddenly at one point, and there were 6-7 men from their family who were helping us film. They were showing, either doing the art or showing us pieces. And when this hullabaloo started, suddenly there was like almost all of them disappeared from the room where we were. And so I was wondering what has happened? What's the commotion? So I stepped out to have a look, and there was a bus load of tourists who had emerged. And it's a tourist spot on itinerary of tourists, the Khatri household. So tourists come here and they look at the whole process of the art shown to them and all of that. And this is their primary place of selling.
I see.
So I have some pictures as well. I would like to share them, and I'm just going to show that.
तो हमारे रोगन आर्ट.
So these are tourists. They are being shown all the pieces. Here's another one. Yeah. So this is where we do a lot of selling too.
I see. Because any art form, you do want to see it, right? You want to, before you buy it. So on Amazon, you will do it on Amazon if you're aware of what it looks like already. Right. And I'm actually so glad that we are informing our audience the unique nature, because I find that art form, yes, you look at it and you appreciate it, but when you know the history and something more about it, the artist or the technique, then the appreciation grows so much.
Absolutely.
And then that's what makes it unique, right? That's what makes any art unique.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, one last question about the Rogan art. It's not so much about the art, went there, you filmed there. Did you have any unusual experience or anything that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. So the one thing that really stands out is, the large-heartedness and the hospitality of the family. They opened their doors, their homes, and their hearts out to us, and made our filming process very, very comfortable. They were very cooperative and helpful. But one thing that has stayed with me is, you know how during filming you always overshoot your schedule, and we were shooting, and it was past lunchtime, and of course we were hungry, but there was no restaurant close by, so we discussed amongst ourselves that let's just wrap the whole thing no matter what time it, and then we'll eat on the way back. But they kind of had already planned for it, and they cooked us the most delicious meal that I've eaten. Homemade, simple, garam khana, dal, sabzi, roti. It was so delicious. It's one of those memorable meals that has given.
Oh my God!
So your soul is touched with the food, and that's what that's.
You are making us all hungry. It is that time of the day, and seriously, the expression on your face said it all.
And another amazing thing that I discovered was that Nirona is a small village in Gujarat, but it boasts of not one art form, Rogan. It boasts of 3 unusual art forms. One is copper bells. They make copper bells and wind chimes, and that happens there as well. And then there's another one which is lacquer work, so rolling pins and spatulas, etc. They do lacquer work on that, and they're all very helpful. So if you go to the copper bell artist, he will, after he does a demonstration, he will guide you to the other guy, and that guy will guide you to Rogan. So they help them each other like that. So that was interesting to observe.
Yeah, that is a very interesting thing. It's an artist village, first of all. How wonderful. And they work in a team. They are not competing with each other. And they understand that the art part is more important for them. That's what it means to me. Yeah. And what a nice experience. It is unusual. I actually, because of your stories, I feel like, my one of the trips, I would actually like to go to this village and see all the different art forms and the artists who make it.
Yes.
Very, very nice. Very nice.
Quite an experience.
Yeah. So let's see if people have any questions. You can raise hands about Rogan art. If you have any question, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to move to the next one. I want to, okay, name of the village. Pawan is asking, what is the name of the village, Rupat?
Nirona.
Nirona in Gujarat.
And for Nagpur, Nirona.
Yeah. Did you get it, Pawan? Okay. Yeah. So anyone who wants to make a trip to an unusual place, and if you love art, then this is really one of the places you could travel to. So with that, okay. And then somebody's asking, Rupa, what is the price range of the finished product? Now you can talk about it. You made this film 2 years ago, was it?
Yes. So at that time, what we found out or discovered is that they are making products to suit every kind of pocket. So if you are happy to spend, then some of their tree of lives go even as high as 2.5, 3 lakh to 3 lakhs. But if you have say only 250 rupees, then they'll give you a little mobile pouch with one Rogan flower on it. So you have the entire range. So a sari would be say 12 to 15,000 rupees. And a mobile pouch, like I said, 250. So it depends on the amount of work that has gone into that product that determines the price. So the entire range is available for every kind of pocket.
Yeah. See, the thing that I find amazing about this traditional art from India is that when you buy that piece, the wearable piece or usable piece, it's not it's not like a printed, like the artist has actually used their hands, their imagination and all that to make that specific piece. It's
Yes,
not like,
Absolutely, and it's a big fear among them, or rather, not a fear, a threat.
Yeah.
With mass-produced, machine-made
Yeah.
designs, because they are able to replicate this on machines, and that is a big threat to the artists. They have spent so much time, sweat, blood, and toil in making these creations, and to have. And the thing is that we are sometimes not discerning about the art.
yeah,
We sometimes are not willing to spend that much, and that's
yeah,
where it can sort of go wrong.
yeah. Wow. Let me see now. So I'm just reading a question, Rupa, the last one, and then we'll move on to the next art form. Pawan is asking, how was Amazing Film got traction to them in terms of deliverable to them? I think what he's asking is, did the film get traction, give them traction?
Yes, it did. I may not know specifically about Rogan, but the next art form that we are going to speak about, I'm in touch with the artist more regularly than I am with Abdul Bhai as well. But the next art form, the artist has told me very clearly that people saw the film, and after that he got a lot of queries and orders and things like that.
That's great. So that is one of the reasons why you make these kind of films, right? Because then it should be helping the artist. So that's great. So I'm going to now move on to the next art form. What's the name of the next art form?
It's Tangalia.
Tangalia, okay.
Yes.
Tangalia. What is it? Can you
so
show
Tangalia comes from the word Tangalio, I think, from tongue, which is the lower part of the body. And originally, Tangalia shawls were draped around the waist. Like this, I'll just show you a picture.
Tangalia.
So,
wow.
Draped around her waist, and this is how it was traditionally used.
Wow. I love it. Yeah. I mean, that what you just showed, Rupa, is also inspiring to fashion designers, I would think.
Yes.
Not just artists. Yeah.
So I will show you some art as well, some pictures of the work.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I see dots.
Yes. So that's the unique part about this.
Okay.
It's called those are danas. It's also called dana work. So that's what the amazing part of this. Let's just let me just take you through the history quickly.
Okay.
So apparently this started about 700 years ago, and it's even older than Rogan, and it's also steeped in legend, like many art forms are. So a boy from the Bharwad community apparently fell in love with a girl from the Weaver community, and they got married, and a new community born out of this marriage, and that is known as the Dangasia community. And it's the Dangasia community which does Tangalia work, and that's their identity now. So that's where it comes from.
So did it happen 800 years ago? This story that you just said,
Yes.
That's an old story. Yes. You know what I like about that story? That the two communities were allowed, one boy and girl were allowed to marry each other without any objection. And in fact, what was created was even something better. And that's how world should be, I think. Okay, so you are going to show us something unique about this particular art form?
The unique part about the Tangalya is a dana or beadwork. Cotton and wool is adeptly twisted into little dots onto a few strands of threads on the warp of the loom. This requires tremendous skill, as on the one hand, the size and distance of the danas has to be consistent, and on the other, the design and motif have to be masterfully crafted. What makes it more challenging is that this is done without the help of any graph or machine and stems from the imagination of the weaver, and so depends on his expertise and accuracy.
So that dana you see, is that a bead or is it from the thread itself? I didn't get that part.
Yeah, it's from the thread. So,
Oh,
what they do is, while they are weaving, they take another thread and they keep on twisting
I see.
that thread into the weave as little dots or danas. And that is what makes this art special, because these danas have to be done by hand, and it has to be, nimble and dexterous and all that, because you have to take like individual threads and then insert it inside by twisting this other thread. And another amazing feature of this art is that it looks absolutely the same on both the sides.
Oh,
Sometimes when you embroider and stuff,
Yeah.
the back is all untidy and you have all your knots and stuff like that. So that doesn't happen here. You look at it either ways and it looks exactly the same. And another unique feature is that it is the danas which make the design, but there is no graph or tracing paper again. But they have to get the precise location for the next dana in order to read the design, and that I don't know how they do it. So
yeah.
that's
Wow.
the remarkable part, and sort of that leads me to the mysteries section.
Wait, Rupa. I just want to dwell on one thing a little bit before we move to the mystery part.
Yeah.
That the rare part. First of all, this is also in Gujarat, right? And this is like one area or one village.
Yes, so this is in Surendranagar.
Okay.
We visited two villages in Surendranagar, Dedadra and Vastadi. We visited two different weavers, but they are originally from the same family, the Rathod family. So I believe there are only about maybe 20 to 25 weavers now who practice this.
Wow. So that makes it very rare.
Yes.
And it's not like the Khatri family, that the Rogan art was only one family. Here, I guess there are more people, but even then it is very rare. And the dana, the art itself also is very intricate and very rare. I'm really impressed and I love the colors and the design. So now you tell us about the mystery part.
Yeah, so Baldev Rathod, one of the weavers that I met, had a very interesting story to tell me. So he had some Japanese clients and they were observing him while he worked. And then they said, okay, now we're going to do it. We figured it out. And we are going to do this on the machine. So we don't need to, come to you every time. So they went back to Japan. And 6 to 8 months later, they were back. And they had not been able to replicate this on a machine. And that is the fascinating part, that no matter what they have, and it's Japan, they've not replicated. And the other weaver, Jahan Bhai, he said with such pride, he said, technology and science ने इतनी तरक्की कर ली है कि शायद मुर्दे को जिंदा कर दे, कि हमारा तांगलिया कभी नहीं बना सकते, तो हम ही बना सकते हैं.
That is, such pride and appropriate one too. The Japanese could not reproduce it. That is amazing because they are really known for their diligence and they will probably spend nights and days figuring out.
Trying to crack it, but they've not been able to. We've not been able to crack it as yet.
Yeah, wow, that is a real, like the mysterious part. Like, how do they do it then? How do they do it, right? Yeah, that's amazing. But then, so these are the few people who or few family actually can do it with their hands. That's what you're saying. Was there something when you were there, were you tempted to buy some? If I were in your place, I would be tempted to buy something right away. It is so beautiful. Did you do that yourself?
Glad you asked me that, because I've kept something ready in case you ask me. Yeah, so I picked up this stole.
Yeah.
And I hope you can see that it's these danas here that have created the design.
Yeah.
And they have managed to get the same design replicated here and here, and they've done this single dana at a time and without any graph paper or design or anything.
Yeah, beautiful. So they make shawls. Do they make anything else? What other types of things do they sell?
So they have a whole range of products. So I can show that to you. Just a second.
Do they make saris also?
Yes, they do.
I'm going to buy one sari.
Not about it. Just a second. Yeah.
एक समय ऐसा था.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
मंगोलिया में हम बहुत सारी चीज बनाते हैं, जैसे शॉल, मफलर बनाते हैं, जैकेट भी बनाते हैं, ड्रेस मटेरियल भी, साड़ी भी बनाते हैं, स्टॉल भी बनाते हैं.
Nice. So the material they use, is that wool or cotton or silk, or what material do they use?
Okay, so they use cotton, but before that, I would like to talk about the depth experience that this art form underwent.
Yeah.
So there was a time around the turn of the millennium, around the year 2000, when there was absolutely no demand for this.
I see.
And it came to such a situation that the artists had to stop this, and in fact, they had to go looking for other work. And Baldev says that he even worked as a majdoor, like a daily laborer. Let's hear it from his own words. Share the screen.
एक समय ऐसा था टांगलिया तो बिल्कुल मार्केट नहीं थी. 2000 से 2003 तक मजदूरी भी कर ली, टांगलिया छोड़ दिया था.
Yeah.
So he left, he went and became a day laborer.
Yes.
But then, but then what happened? What's the story of the resurrection here?
So what happened was organizations such as NIFT, Care India and Saath came into the picture like, angels. And they were able to bring freshness to the products and to the art. And they were able to guide the artists about what are the innovations that are possible, what will sell better. So earlier, like you saw the picture of the woman with the shawl draped around her waist, Tangalia was most often made as a shawl, and it was done in wool, and it used to be dyed at home and all that. So there were restrictions on the colors. It was mainly brown and black. So when they started having these innovations, then they started using cotton and silk, and the products also became more contemporary. So there were saris, jackets, like I showed you earlier. Dhabai showed us all the products. So a whole range of products were then created, and that was able to fetch them a market. There was a demand, and again, the government helped with the GI certificate. GI is a geographical indicator, which is kind of loosely like the ISI quality marks. So it sort of says that this art is from this place and it's authentic and things like that. So that helped, and plus of course the exhibitions. So all of that happened around 2003 or so, and since then Tangalia has really taken off.
Okay, I can totally understand that. It's so beautiful. I know you are not reading the chat, so I want to read out what Fawzia, our executive director, who was supposed to be not feeling that well, so I wasn't expecting to see her, but she's watching a watch party. But she came in Zoom just to tell you this, Rupa, that she's a sari lover and Indian textile enthusiast, and this is her favorite. Tangalia is what she is loving, and she's saying that she will connect with you directly to learn more about these art forms. So
I can help her with the artists, weavers, numbers, etc. So she can order it, and he couriers the stuff.
I see. So even with Tangalia art, you can order it. You are saying courier. So it must be available either online or Amazon.
Not
yet. I see. Not yet online. Okay. So you will have to actually connect with the person and order it, and then they can give it to you. I mean, send it to you courier. That makes it even better. You know, there's a story in that also.
More personalized as well.
Yeah, more personalized, right? Exactly. Exactly. No, it's amazing. These art forms are not only beautiful, but I'm just thinking, you know, like every time, let's say we buy, you know, like a cushion cover or something like that. I never think about this. Right, I'm thinking about, wow, that artist has actually touched it. The artist, from his mind, imagination to that cloth, it's there. It's not a machine that's reproducing it.
Yes, and I think that art is story of hard work, maybe, you know, poverty. There is pain, there could be pain. There's so much behind that piece of art.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I also wanted to mention that Baldev Rathod also has the national award. He got it in 2018, soon after we made the film. I mean, not that it was related. When we met, he had sent his sari to the central government. And soon after we finished shooting, he called me up and he said, Madam, mil gaya mujhe national award.
Wow.
And also, he has been visited by Smriti Irani, the Union Textile Minister, and that's also a matter of great pride. I mean, he told us that and he showed us pictures. When she wanted to visit an artist, it was his own that shared the picture, and I will share it with you right now.
एक समय ऐसा था.
Yeah.
Oh, Smriti Irani, I see her. Yeah. Right.
So she has visited his home and checked out the process of making the sari and.
Yeah. Is there any story like women are not allowed to or anything like that, like with the Khatri family, where he changed that? Is that whatever to do with art also?
So actually, I don't think there is anything which forbids them, or they don't have any such vision to not have the women. But at the same time, it's something that the men do. So on the men sit on the loom and they weave, but a lot of the background work is done by the women. So all the prep, so putting the bobbin and the warping and all of those processes, which are the background work before the weaver sits on the loom, that was all done by the women. But I happened to speak to Baldev about a month back, and he was telling me that his daughter, who is probably about maybe 12 or 13 years old, has now learned the art form. And I asked him, I said, so have you been teaching her? So he said, nahi, humko sikhana nahi padta hai, ye to hamare blood mein hai, seekhe jate hain hamare bacche. So, I will show you pictures of his wife working on the loom, not on the loom, on the spindle. And also his son, when we were filming, the son came back from school, and I think that's his schedule. He comes back and he threw his bag down and he sat down beside his father. It was so heartwarming to see the legacy being passed down generation right in front of our eyes. So I'm going to share that picture as well. Here he is with his son.
Yeah. Wow, he's a little kid.
Yeah, must be about 10 years, 10 years old. Yes.
So like the dad said, the father said, their kids are born with this.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is hereditary, like genetic.
Yeah.
After 800 years, I don't know how long it takes for developing genetic traits, but
he says that this to me so many times.
yeah, very nice, very nice.
So
that's his wife, I see.
So she does all this prep work and prepares the loom for him so that he can sit and he can, create it.
So Rupa, I think what you said and what you just showed us has earned at least 2 customers for saris to Tangalias, Fauzi and me.
Okay.
So we'll be in touch with you about that. You were there in this remote part, not so remote, but not very big either. What did you experience? Is there anything you want to share with us?
They are very hospitable and large-hearted. That I already said even at the time.
Yeah.
But there was one experience here which was very unusual for urban India and all that. You go to this village and there are signages once you're inside the village. So, we were trying to figure out how to get to Jahanbhai's house, the other artist. And we asked around. And it was such a culture shock for us that we would say, Jahanbhai Rathod kahan rehte hain? And they would say, oh, wo Harijan. You don't get to hear that in...
Harijan? Is that what you said? Oh, yes. Wow.
You hear that in, in a city.
Yeah.
And we were like, isn't that banned? Are they even allowed to say that word? And we were all quite shocked and stuff. But now I think, in a while, I was able to get better perspective over it. It's a way of life for them. That is how they identify people. It's just a caste. Probably an analogy that I could draw is, we say, oh, he's a good Jew and she's a, Ghat. And we use that so often in our conversation. So probably in the milieu there, that's how they speak.
Yeah.
So, we had to sort of shock. And
then,
and then we went we finally found Jahanbhai and we went to his house. And I don't drink tea or coffee. Unusual as though it is a fact that I don't drink tea or coffee. After we finished filming, he said, let me make tea. And I said, no, I don't want tea. I don't drink tea. And he kept insisting, you must have said, I really don't want. And then finally he said to me, मुझे पता है आप क्यों नहीं पी रहे हैं. आप नहीं पीते ये नहीं है, कुछ और ही कारण है. I'm like, nahi, main nahi piti. And then after a few seconds, the penny dropped. I realized that he thought I'm not drinking out of his house because he's not of my caste. And I was so sort of taken aback by that revelation that he's thinking that. When he offered chikki, I ate too much just to compensate. Just so that he feel bad, and I made I'm eating. This is really nice.
Yeah. No, that is so interesting. And Rupa, I have to say this. I have lived in the US for over 30 years. And for me, I know in India, we say good Jew and Ghat and this and that. And we are not very sensitive to that. But in my my sensibilities, it feels a little bit like, wow, because some of these things can have derogatory connotation. And I understand people don't think about it that way. So I'm not sure how it should be. I just wanted to say that it's interesting that, people are just calling him Harijan. And then he thought you were not drinking tea in his house because of the caste difference. All these things are so ingrained in our living, right? And so are the traditions. I mean, on one hand, we don't want some of these traditions to live in terms of the way we treat people and each other. But then on the other hand, some of the other traditions which are manifested in the art form, we do want to preserve those traditions. And so there is a story of resurrection here too. And when there is a resurrection happens, then there is something that gets better, something that gets innovated. And it sounds like that's what happened, because NIFT, which is the National Institute of Fashion Technology, right? NIFT. So NIFT helped these people, this community, to resurrect. So they must have made sure that design-wise and color combination-wise and all that, it was appealing to the general public. Very nice, very nice. So let's move on to the next one now, the last one. What's the last form?
So this is something that I have not filmed, but I came across it and I thought it was sort of apt.
It's also the Live India history, right? Made by the same foundation. Yeah.
And I thought that this particular art form has also traveled a very interesting journey. So I thought we can talk about it. It's called the Baluchari from West Bengal, Baluchari sari. Word Baluchari means balu, which is sand. So it was woven in Baluchar, which is sandbanks. It was by the banks of the Ganga. So that's where it derives its name from. And it's an art form. And but before I show you the saris, I would like to tell you something, and I want you to park that thought. So there's the Malla dynasty in West Bengal, and around I think the 15th, 16th century, thereabouts. And they built really beautiful temples in a town called, or village called, Bishnupur. What they didn't know at that time when they were building the beautiful, spectacular temples and other structures was that this was going to play a role later. I'll come to that role later.
Okay, great.
I'll show you the temples first.
All right, wonderful.
Can you see?
Yes, beautiful.
So see
temple art is another amazing art form in India.
Yes. Look at the intricate walls.
Yeah, very intricate. Yeah. And also a specific style of architecture.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean I can show you the saris as well. So these are saris from West Bengal, like I said.
So West Bengal part, okay.
Yeah.
So that's where this particular Baluchari. So this is a sari. Is that a pallu of a sari? Oh, okay. So this is woven art. Do they actually have looms where they weave these into the saris? Okay, they make them into saris. Yeah, okay.
And if you observe that most of Indian heavy saris have a lot of zari work, etc.
Yeah,
it's all resham, silk threads, which is woven. And of course, now people are making a demand for richer versions, and they have introduced sari in it. But this is the traditional form of sari.
I see. Is it as rare as the other two art forms in the sense that only some families make it, or is there a larger community where they?
There's a larger community. It's definitely not as rare as the other two.
Okay.
But it did go through a very interesting trajectory.
Okay.
So let me tell you a little bit about that. So it used to be made, these saris used to be made in Dhaka. And the Nawab of Bengal around the 18th century, he patronized this art and he got the weavers to Baluchar. And the saris began to get made there. And therefore they get their name Baluchari.
Okay.
But then there were floods in the Ganga. And this entire village of Baluchar was submerged.
Mhm.
And when that happened, the art was lost completely. And there were no documents, there were no records, there was nothing left of this art. And so the weavers moved to Bishnupur. So it nearly died there. The weavers were moved to Bishnupur, and that's where it was resurrected there. And in Banaras, far off Banaras.
I see.
That's later again. Okay, so in 1920s or thereabouts, in Bishnupur, this art form was again revived. The weavers came, and the two shifts happened with Baluchari. It moved from Baluchar to Bishnupur, and the shift, when it moved these places, it also used to be made on a Jala loom, and in Bishnupur it started being made on the jacquard loom. So that's the device which kind of simplifies the process. So this is a shift that happened in the life of this sari, so to speak. And so the mystery with this art form or this sari is that not too much is known. We don't know exactly when the weavers moved to Bishnupur. We don't know how far back this tradition goes. We don't know how it vanished completely. Also, after around 1903 are the last parts of this art form. There was nothing left. So there was nothing whereby the weavers could reproduce in Bishnupur.
Okay.
In the old art. So it was kind of a mystery what happened.
What it was. Yeah.
That's what happened. And then when the resurrection happened, in the 1950s during the British Raj, again it disappeared. The sari disappeared. So after Bishnupur, there was again a dip. 1950 during the British Raj.
Two deaths you're talking.
Yeah.
Near deaths. Yeah.
And there were floods, and then again we don't know the reason. That's another mystery. What happened in the early 1950s, 1940s, that the sari completely disappeared from the market. So at that time, Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay, the freedom fighter, she was a craft revivalist. She went to Banaras where there were weavers, and she started the revival resurrection process there. So let's hear from the weaver from Banaras. Let's hear from him what he has to say.
बेचारी साड़ी हमारे यहाँ जब बंगाल में बनना बंद हो गया तो दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट ने 1950 के बाद तकरीबन 1955-56 में दादाजी अली हसन साहब के पास आए। उपल देकर जी और कमला देवी चट्टोपाध्याय जी आई और उन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट किया कि ये साड़ी बहु उसी तरह का आप बनाइए, हम चाहते हैं, लोग इसकी डिमांड कर रहे हैं। बंगाल में बना बंद हो गया, कोई सीखा भी नहीं वहाँ पे, आप इसको लोगों को बतलाइए, सिखाइए और इसका प्रोडक्शन कराइए। तभी से ये आज तक हमारे यहाँ बनता चला आ रहा है। आज भी उसी तरह का बना रहे हैं, लेकिन वहाँ बंगाल की साड़ी और हमारे यहाँ की जो शैली है बनाने की, उसमें कुछ डिजाइन है। देखिए अभी हम पिछले रिवर्स स्टूडियो का एक जो डेवलपमेंट कराया था उन्हें बंगाल के लिए, तो उन्होंने ये हमको कुछ दिया था साड़ी बनाने के लिए, जो बिष्णुपुर में पहले बनता था 103 साल पहले। तो वो डिजाइन ध्रुवदास जी ने बनाया था 103 साल पहले, वो बिष्णुपुर के थे। तो उसके बाद किसी ने सीखा नहीं तो बंद हो गया। तो व्यूअर्स स्टूडियो ने दोबारा से उन्होंने कोशिश किया कि विष्णुपुर में उसको बनाया जाए उस तरह का, सेम उस तरह का जो बनता था वहां पे, बनारस की तरह का नहीं। तो बनारस में वो आई क्योंकि वहां पे कोई बनाने वाला था। तो बालूचरी में हमारे पास ज्यादा वो तजुर्बा है, हमारे फैमिली में 4 पीढ़ियों का तजुर्बा है, हमारे पास बहुत सारी डिजाइनें भी हैं बालूचरी। तो हमने उनको 8 महीना 9 महीना में करीब 100-125 डिजाइन डेवलप किया मैंने खुद।
So what you're saying, Rupa, is that they resurrected it, but they moved the place again where it was being made, right? Yeah. But then you mentioned something about Vishnupur temples. What's the connection there then?
So when these Vishnupur, they had no designs to go by, right? Because everything was lost.
Yeah.
So then they began to make designs from whatever they surround them. And the Vishnupur temples were a large part of what they were seeing.
Yeah.
They feature in the saris. And let me show you a screen where you can see the work on the temple. You see that?
Oh, yeah. The temple art is reproduced in the sari, woven in the sari.
Yes.
And it's silk, you said silk thread, but no zari really.
Yes, correct. And
wonderful, I love it. Yeah.
Horses and people, and then you see horses, people, carriages, and they also are influenced by Lord Vishnu's incarnations and avatars. They feature in the sari pallus. There's a lot of imagery. There's a lot of imagery from the epics, from Mughal life, from Mughal army, Rajput army influences. So the imagery is very. It's all in the pallu. Firstly, very beautiful, and paisleys and temple architectural reliefs. All that features a lot on their saris. And there's a woman called Darshan Shah who works with the Weaver Studio, and she's very passionate about the revival of this art form. So she's talked about the designs, and I'd like to share that as well.
You know, it is the pallas, as you can see, are very architectural. There were many questions that were asked, that why is Baluchari palla so long? Why is it 1.5 meters? Who would wear it? So if you wore it in Bengali style and you pleated it, you could see the grand palla. And there was nothing like a Bengali style. So if you did wear it straight away, also the palla would go at the back. So what really was it? Was it a wrap cloth? Maybe yes, because this is so architectural, the palla. So maybe it was used for wrapping gifts, books, silver, whatever, to give from the Zamindar families to the kings or to the British. And so we really don't know. There are many, many theories about it. And that is how we find the architectural bit. As you find that it's all grits. And this is the portion, the central deity or the central space or the central door. And what we found is that there were paisleys always. So in our exhibition, we researched and we kind of put together this grand show where we show the one paisley to the 12 paisleys, different saris, how they developed, from where they developed, and what are the different designs that came on, and what is the iconography came on. As you can see that the British going in a train, or the hookah smoking women and men, or you would see the beautiful flowers they're giving, you would see the Mughal hats, you would see the zamindari system. I think what was there earlier, much earlier, what we see in museums in the Tapi collection and other private collections, etc., is that there used to be a floral border, there used to be very barik booties, there used to be an architectural palla. So whether it had an elephant or it had the hookah smoking or it had a figure like a train going or whatever, the iconography was all from a local area, and what they saw is what they wove. And of course the paisley.
That's beautiful. I just want to mention one of the comments that Vijaya has made in the chat, that she is a proud owner. She is a fan of Baluchari and a proud owner of a 40-year-old sari which she picked up from Shantiniketan, which is again from Bengal, and is getting worn out. But I want to preserve it as a piece of art, and that's what it is. In fact, this is one of the art forms where they have reproduced what they see around you. It's like a painting to them. how beautiful. And I'm wondering, in fact, one last question I want to ask you, and I don't know if you can talk about it, is I know that probably these saris, they must be just sold in shops, right? Or in exhibitions, or where are they sold? And are they sold all over India or only specific parts of India?
I'm not so sure about where they're sold. I know that they're going through a revival process, but I do know, I'm from Jamshedpur, and because of the proximity to West Bengal, there were a lot of Bengali influences and stuff.
Okay.
My mother also owned
Baluchari.
Wow. Yes. So I guess that they are available in stores, because I don't think I'm sure she picked it up from the store. But it's still, they are making efforts to preserve it and revive it and things like that.
I see. That is such a heartwarming story. I really hope that they move on to actually establishing themselves. It's so beautiful. These saris are amazing. I don't know if I knew about it, and my excuse is I haven't lived in India for last 30 years, but I'm surprised, because I love these kinds of traditional art forms made in a sari form. So I'm going to look for them now. Amazing. And Roop, first of all, I am very impressed that you actually took time. Like you said, you jumped at the opportunity of going to these remote villages and shooting these kinds of things. And I have to say one other thing. I was talking to my sister who lives in Delhi, and she's also very interested in all these different art forms. She was saying something interesting, that there are exhibitions, or there is a shop, she said, where she has been to a few times. They actually have tribal art or these traditional art forms displayed there. But she said that a lot of times the pieces over there, they are old looking, or you may not have the color combinations, or the way they look, they may not be appealing to you. And some of them, maybe they're not handled properly. Maybe they don't have the finesse, because when you want to buy something, you need to have the finesse. But the 3 stories you talked about, it seemed like they resurrected themselves. They added finesse, they added new color combinations and new ways of presenting different kinds of objects, I think. So to me, that is the best form of resurrection, where it is sustainable. And the finesse part and all that is also very, very important. Another thing I think about when I listen to your 3 stories of resurrection, I was thinking of the hero journey. A hero journey, it's like a myth that exists in all different cultures and all different countries, where there is a hero. It could be a he or a she, and the hero goes through near-death experience. And after that, if he doesn't get killed, then he gets resurrected and he becomes an upgraded version of himself or herself. They need to acquire things that actually are better, self-discovery that makes it better. So they come out triumphant from this experience. And the first 2 art forms you showed, it looks like that's what has happened to them. And I hope that the 3rd form also, which is currently undergoing resurrection, also is kept alive in the same way. And they also find their own niche, find their own way of marketing themselves. And with that, one other thing I want to say is sometimes we think that selling off to the markets is a bad thing. But in these kinds of art forms, which are wearable art forms, which people buy because they want to use it in their homes or as hangings or saris, in fact, markets are an important part. What do you think? Does it feel like they sold out to the markets? But in this case, it's
move with the times, selling their souls, so to speak. They're moving with the times and adapting anything with while retaining the flavor or the essence or the traditions. If you're able to innovate so that it is more contemporary, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. No, that is so true. I just want to refer to one comment that Vijaya made, which is an important one, that she's saying mostly these Baluchari saris, they come from household vendors who bring them from Bengal, from Kolkata. I haven't seen them in showrooms. However, you did show the guy from Banaras who said that they are reviving it there and they're actually selling it. That's part of the resurrection. So I hope, Vijaya, your experience with, don't see it in showrooms, maybe it changes because of the resurrection that's currently it is going through. And with that, I think it is time for us to wind down this presentation. And Rupa, thank you so much for coming here and presenting this wonderful material. And now comes to the mystery. We have to come to the mystery part about
yes,
you.
I was waiting for that. Anyway, before you get into that, I big thank you for this opportunity. I had a great evening, and I hope everyone else did too.
Yeah, and I really hope by doing this, we will create a renewed interest, at least in the audience's mind, for these art forms, and they can spread the word more. And you said Live History India. That's the place where they have not only these 3 art forms, but similar kinds of historical. Yeah. Right. So that's the other thing I think I would like to check out. And about the mystery about you, I have to say that I know Rupa's husband very well, and he happens to be my brother. So I'm very proud of Rupa because of everything she has done, including running all the marathons, making all these wonderful films, and also, surviving something difficult as cancer and presenting the stories to the world. And as you can see that she's a beautiful woman.
Oh, wow.
So with that, now I am going to say bye to everybody and thank you, all of you, for coming to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for all your generous compliments. Thank you.
And true, and all of them are true. Yeah, I mean it. I really mean it. Sometimes, when it